call this meeting, Senate Finance meeting to order. And Mr. Thorley, if you could please call the roll.
Senator Dennis. Senator Kiekefer. Senator Goycochea. Senator Hammond. Senator Ratty. Senator Severs-Gansert. Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Dondero-Loop. Chair Brooks.
Here, and we'll mark the rest present as they come in, but we have a quorum, so we can get started. And we will start with, we have 6 bills to hear, and then we're going to do some BDR introductions at the end, and then public comment. And we will start with Senate Bill 34, which makes various changes relating to agriculture. And I think we've got the Department of Agriculture and Mr. Ferris able to testify on this. And Mr. Thorley, if you could walk us through the fiscal impact before we get started on that bill.
Will do, Mr. Chair. Section 16 of the bill adds agricultural police officers to the definition of police officer under NRS 617.135. The Risk Management Division submitted a fiscal note indicating this change would make agricultural police officers eligible for the Heart and Lung Program. The division projects costs of $3,651 in FY22 and just under $4,000 in FY23 and $115,000 in future biennia to add 6 agricultural police officers to the Heart and Lung Program.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. And before we get started on that, and this is for not just for Mr. Ferris, but for all of the presenters tonight, we are just trying to understand and clarify the fiscal impact. The policy has already been through the policy committee, and I'm sure it's wonderful, and we don't really want to hear a lot about it. We're just here to hear about the fiscal impacts and try to clarify some of those issues. So, with that being said, we can start on Senate Bill 34, Mr. Ferris.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Doug Ferris, and I'm the Animal Industry Division Administrator for the Nevada Department of Agriculture. I do have the previous presentation that I did initially in the Natural Resources Committee, and I don't know if you want me to go over that then, or if we want to just keep it brief and you want me to answer some questions as far as the fiscal note.
If you could just give us a brief overview of the bill and what it does, and then we'll have some questions. I think we might have some questions on the bill a little bit, but we'll also then just dive into the fiscal note.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Doug Ferris. The purpose of this bill is to update the titles for the sworn law enforcement officers that the Nevada Department of Agriculture employs. We currently have 5 agricultural law enforcement officer positions. And the 6th one that was mentioned earlier is actually my position, as I'm a sworn officer as well. The purpose of the bill is to update the from the agricultural law enforcement officers to update their titles to an agricultural police officer. Additionally, the intention is to transfer our Category 2 law enforcement officers to have them fall under a Category 1 post-certified law enforcement officer position. And in saying that, I want to note that actually all of our law enforcement officers that we have employed currently are all Category 1 peace officers. So this would not affect anybody's position with this change. There's one small blurb in there I know about. We added just the word visual to brand inspections. And then as far as I know, what the questions you may have was on the fiscal note was adding the occupational health coverage as well for our law enforcement officers. With that, if you'd like me to go any further, Mr. Chairman, or I can be available for questions. We also have our fiscal administrator is with us this evening as well for the Department of Agriculture if needed.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. And does the committee have any questions on Senate Bill 34 before we reach out to the Department of Administration? Yes, Senator Kiekefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So trying to understand. So if you say they're already Cat 1 peace officers, does the bill change the heart-lung statute, or does it change to capture your officers, or does it change something else?
Yes, Senator, for the record, Doug Ferris, Department of Agriculture. It actually is doing both, Senator. It would categorize or classify our officers as Category 1 peace officers is one section, and the other is to add them into the occupational, the heart and lung coverage. So we're trying to accomplish both of those measures.
Thank you. Are your officers currently part of the collective bargaining group for peace officers in the state?
For the record, Doug Ferris, yes, they are under the Category 2 peace officers.
Thank you.
And do we have anyone from Department of Administration Risk Management Division that might be able to explain the fiscal note to us?
Chairman, Matthew Tuma, Deputy at the Department of Administration for the record, here to explain the fiscal note. As Mr. Ferris noted, it does open up officers. This legislation opens up officers to the heart and lung benefits that are administered by the Risk Management Division at the Department of Administration. And our fiscal note is based off of the annual costs and the eligible FTEs that go into that pool. So currently in risk management, in FY20 for these claims, the risk management budget spent in FY20 spent a little under 1.8 million for claims expenses. And this is for an eligible FTE count of 3,143. So based off of the sort of projection increase, average annual increase for FY22 and 23, we arrived at the $3,600 and just under the $4,000 numbers for each year, respectively, based off of the per eligible FTE cost of those expenses that are expected to be paid out during those fiscal years. The ongoing cost and so future costs for future biennium, that was based off of from FY15 through our current, or through calendar year 2015 through current, we've had 19 claims that have been started and fully paid out and fully adjudicated. And so we arrived at an average annual cost or an average lifetime cost per claim of 76,000, just under 77,000. And based off of data that one in 4 people will develop a heart condition. We used a multiplier of 1.5 times that average annual or that average lifetime benefit amount for the existing six folks. So I'm available for any questions if anybody has any questions on the methodology of how we got to those fiscal impacts.
Thank you, Mr. Tuma. Does anyone have any questions? Senator Gokachia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just kind of a comment. Technically, these 5 officers, they're running up and down the highway with lights and sirens, have the ability to stop people, pull people over. So I guess the real question is whether they're Category 2 or Category 1 officers. As they roll to Category 1s, then that makes them eligible for this heart-lung benefit and the fiscal note. So I guess if that's the question, we have to ask ourselves, even though it is a policy question, they do have the ability to stop people on the highway and therefore probably should be Category 1 officers. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions? All right. So do we have anyone in the audience here that wanted to speak on this bill, in support of this bill? I do not see any, so we'll go to the phone lines. Can we see if we have anyone on the phone that wanted to speak in support of Senate Bill 54, or 34, excuse me?
Thank you, Chair Brooks. To testify in support on Senate Bill 34, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
And do we have anyone in the audience in opposition to Senate Bill 34? We do not.
Thank you, Chair.
Can we see if we have anyone on the phone in opposition?
Certainly, my apologies. Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 34, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
All right, and do we have anyone in the audience in neutral position on Senate Bill 34? We do not. Can we go to the phones and see if we have anyone in neutral position?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 34, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
All right, thank you. Well, that brings the hearing on Senate Bill 34 to end, and we would open up the hearing on Senate Bill 55. Senate Bill 55, Mr. Thorley, could you walk us through the issues with Senate Bill 55?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. This is a budget implementation bill. The executive budget includes a recommendation to transfer oversight of employee leasing companies from the Division of Industrial Relations to the Labor Commissioner. The General Government Joint Subcommittee approved this recommendation on April 20th. Senate Bill 55 as amended would make the statutory changes to go along with the recommendation from the Budget Subcommittee. When the bill was heard in the Policy Committee, the Labor Commissioner did testify that there would be no additional cost to the agency to take on the responsibility of employee leasing company oversight. And I believe Commissioner Chambers is available to provide testimony on the potential fiscal impact if needed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Chambers, if you are available, if you could just give us a very brief description of the bill and also verify that there is no additional cost to your agency.
Good evening, Chairman Brooks and members of the committee. So Shannon Chambers, Nevada Labor Commissioner for the record. So very quickly, just to summarize what this bill does, it's a very simple bill. It transfers the regulation and enforcement of what are now called employee leasing companies to the Labor Commissioner. They will be renamed professional employer organizations, which is the industry terminology that's been used for over 20 plus years. So the Labor Commissioner will take over the licensure of these professional employer organizations. There will be no new fees. The license fee will stay the same. I am not requesting any new positions. There will simply be a transfer of the revenue from the Division of Industrial Relations for the existing fees for the employee leasing companies to the Labor Commissioner. So essentially that's what it does. And I could go on, but that's really what it does. I did submit a statement for the record that gives the full history here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers, and I think that that's probably suffice. Do we have any questions from the committee on Senate Bill 55? I do not see any questions, so do we have anyone here in support of Senate Bill 55? Nobody in the audience? If we could go to the phones and see if we have anyone in support.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 55, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the audience in opposition to Senate Bill 55? We have no one. Can you go to the phones and see if we have anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 55?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 55, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in neutral on Senate Bill 55? Could you see if anyone on the
Thank
phone?
you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 55, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Well, Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about the bill. It looks like, and something that strikes me is that maybe this bill requires licensing rather than registration. Is that a change in how we do things currently?
So Senator Kiefer, Shannon Chambers, again, Nevada Labor Commissioner for the record. So currently it is a registration. Changing it to a license does not change any of the requirements or any of the rights of those that currently have a registration. It simply reflects more of the industry standard. And we had this conversation in Senate Commerce and Labor, and Will Keene, who is counsel for Senate Commerce and Labor, there's no difference here. It's just a change in terminology. And again, quite frankly, reflects more the industry standard, a license instead of a registration. So it's not adding any new fees, not creating any new requirements. Those that are currently registered, when they come up for renewal, as long as they meet the qualifications, they will be given a license, but it's not adding anything new.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that is, unless there's any other questions from the committee, that will bring Senate Bill 55 hearing to a close, and we'll move on to Senate Bill 147. Mr. Thorley, could you walk us through Senate Bill 147?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 147 authorizes a victim to request that a court issue an order imposing a condition of release that prohibits contact or attempted contact with the victim. If such an order is issued, Section 1 of the bill is amended, requires the court to transmit a copy of the order to the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History. Since the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History requirement was added to the bill via an amendment, there's currently not a fiscal note from the DPS Records Communications and Compliance Division. Senator Harris is here to present the bill, and I'll also note Mindy McKay from DPS, I believe, is also available to provide testimony on the potential fiscal impact.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. And Senator Harris, welcome. And if you could just really briefly, again, you didn't hear this before you walked in, but we're, the policy has been worked out in the policy committee, and we just want to have an understanding of the amendment, if that created any, if you could just walk us through really briefly what the bill does, and then we'll go to the agency to see if that had an additional fiscal impact.
Good evening, Chair Brooks and members of the committee. My name is Dallas Harris, representing Senate District 11, and I'm here to speak with you all about Senate Bill 147. It is a bill that came out of the interim committee on pretrial release, which is just a fancy way of saying bail. So, this bill, as amended, would allow what we call no contact orders to be able to be transmitted to a central location, which is why you will likely hear from DPS. Here's why we would like to be able to do that. Currently, if you get a temporary restraining order, police know that, right? That's in a system. They can look that up in order to be able to protect folks who have sought those protections. However, if as a condition of pretrial release, the judge orders you to stay away from a particular person, that order is often just reflected in the court minutes. And the punishment for violating that currently is contempt of court. And the stories that we heard during our interim committee work are stories of folks who may have this no contact order. They call the police, but because there is no official court order, Because the police officers do not have this in their system, because there is no crime that officers can arrest someone on, these victims are often left without any recourse, at least not through police in that immediate moment. The traditional avenue is for you to then reach out to the prosecuting attorney who's handling your case, let them know there's been a violation. The prosecuting attorney then has to alert the court, and then we bring the defendant back into the court to be assessed of whether they've actually violated the no contact, and then they're found in contempt of court. Their bail may be revoked, or whatever punishments the judge deems necessary. This has not been wholly sufficient to protect all victims, and so what we're attempting to do is centralize a process similar to the way we have temporary restraining orders. They're not the same thing. But we can put these all into one centralized database where police departments will be able to access them. We have tied it to trespass, and police officers will then be able to look these up, know that they are real, instead of trying to read through court minutes and deciding of whether they can actually act or not. And hopefully we'd be able to protect people right then and there as they're confronted with folks who are not supposed to be contacting them. That's the basic gist.
I appreciate that, Senator. And do we have any questions for Senator Harris before I go to Mindy McKay from the Department of Public Safety? Oh, Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think, Senator Harris, I think I got the gist of the change, but I think that the question was out there. I'm not sure if you answered it. Is the amendment itself, does it change the fiscal note at all? And in what way?
So originally, there was not one, but the amendment actually is what's going to put the fiscal note on it. I know that's not usually the direction you guys are used to hearing. But because what we're doing is now putting this in a centralized location, and as I mentioned, we have the current temporary restraining order system. I've been working with DPS. They have informed me that that current module that they have can be expanded to be able to accommodate no contact orders, and courts will be able to immediately transmit those orders to the central repository in a similar way that they do TPOs today.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Senator. And I think, do we have any other questions from committee members for Senator Harris? And thank you for explaining that to us, Senator Harris. And so do we have Mindy McKay on the line? Oh, thank you. There you are. And if you could, as the bill is amended and reprinted, is there a fiscal note on it, and what creates? If you could briefly describe what creates it and what the amount would be.
Sure, no problem. So for the record, my name is Mindy McKay, and I'm the Division Administrator for the Records, Communications, and Compliance Division within the Department of Public Safety. There is a fiscal note that was just submitted today. And so very briefly, these orders will be placed in our repository for information concerning orders for protection database, and will be available for query through our Nevada Criminal Justice Information System database. Both systems will require IT programming to accept these orders, maintain them, and be accessible to our criminal justice agencies. IT estimates are very rough estimates because we won't truly know the cost until we're able to begin the project process, which is complex and lengthy. A fiscal note was submitted just today, which is why you can't see it yet. We were waiting for the amendment and a potential further amendment by Senator Harris to explicitly state that these will be in the protection order database. So the rough estimate that you should see is around $45,000.
Thank you. And that is that $45,000 just for the setup of the module that Senator Harris described, or is that an ongoing cost?
Mindy McKay, for the record, that is for the initial establishment of the ability to place these in that system.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions from the committee members? I do not see any. And so I think, thank you, Ms. McKay. Thank you, Senator Harris. And we can go and see if we have anyone here in support of Senate Bill 147. I do not see anyone in the audience in support, so if we can go on the phones and see if we have anyone calling in to support Senate Bill 147.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 147, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Could you see if we have anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 147?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 147, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
And do we have anyone in neutral to Senate Bill 147?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 147, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Great, thank you. And I just informed that the fiscal note just posted on Nellis, so thank you. And I also want to note that Senator Severs-Gansert is on the Zoom, and I just forgot to mention that when I saw her earlier. Well, that is, I think that brings the hearing on Senate Bill 147 to a close, and that will go to our next bill, which is Senate Bill 278. And Mr. Thorley, if you could introduce that bill, and we have Senator Settlemyre here to present.
Thank you, Mr. Bill, or Mr. Chair. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Department of Taxation submitted a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, estimating the bill would reduce wholesale marijuana tax revenue by approximately $1.3 million in each fiscal year of the upcoming biennium. However, the Department of Taxation recently submitted an unsolicited fiscal note for the bill as amended, which is available on Nellis. The department determined the bill no longer has a fiscal impact based on the revised definition of wholesale sale to exclude the transfer of cannabis by a cannabis cultivation facility to another cannabis cultivation facility when both cannabis cultivation facilities share the identical ownership.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. And if we could, if Senator Settlemyre, if you could briefly describe to us what the bill as amended does, and then we'll get some confirmation from the Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Settlemyre for the record. And thank you to the committee for hearing this bill tonight, this late time frame. The amendment from the committee, of course, removed the fiscal note, as your fiscal staff said. The bill simply clarifies hazy language, which is an industry term, from the Marijuana Ballot Initiative, and it makes clear that the 15% wholesale tax is only to be charged once.
Short and sweet. And do we have any questions for Senator Settlemyre on this bill? I do not see any from the committee. Thank you, sir. And we will go to the Department of Taxation and see if we can get some confirmation.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if anybody from taxation is on the Zoom meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I'll look and see if we had any written communication from them confirming that, but I appreciate it. And so if nobody has any further questions, then we will see if we have anybody in support of Senate Bill 278.
Hello, Will Adler, representing the Sierra Cannabis Coalition. We'd like to thank Senator Settlemyre for bringing forward Senate Bill 278, and as he said, it clarifies some hazy language from the ballot initiative that was passed in 2016, and you cannot change ballot initiatives for about 2 years, so this just clarifies that the wholesale tax is to be charged after it leaves, a cultivation from one group. So thank you very much, and thank you for hearing it today.
Thank you, Mr. Adler. And do we have anyone else in the audience in support of Senate Bill 278? Doesn't look like we do. Can we see if we have anyone on the phones in support of 278?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 278, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 414, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, this is Joy from Department of Taxation. It let me into the wrong section, so I apologize for that. Can I go ahead and speak?
Please do.
So just to answer the question, yes, based upon the amendment, the department no longer feels it's necessary to have this fiscal note on the bill. And again, Joy Grimmer, Department of Taxation, ASO.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And however we got you, I'm glad we did. So that took care of that issue. So we can go back to support and see if we have anybody on the line for support.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 278. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in opposition here? We do not. So can we see if we have any opposition on the phone?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 278, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
All right, thank you. Do we have any callers in a neutral position on this bill?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 278, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Well, with that, we can close the hearing on Senate Bill 278 and open the hearing on Senate Bill 291. Mr. Thorley, if you could walk us through 291, and then we have Senator Lang here to present that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the fiscal impact, the bill is introduced, provided for the licensure and regulation of master estheticians and instructors of master estheticians. I don't know if I say that word right. The Board of Cosmetology did submit a fiscal note on the bill as introduced. The Senate adopted Amendment 411, which significantly altered the bill. As amended, the bill now authorizes the State Board of Cosmetology to adopt regulations to provide for classifications of licensing as an esthetician. And an updated fiscal note from the State Board of Cosmetology on the amended version of the bill has not been received.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Senator Lang, if you could just briefly describe your bill as amended and what it does, and then I do see that we have the State Board of Cosmetology on the Zoom that can confirm that.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. For the record, I'm Roberta Lang, State Senator for District 7 in Las Vegas. Thank you for hearing this today. So the bill was amended to send it to committee in the time it's been in to the Cosmetology Board, and this bill has been in finance. The Cosmetology Board has come up with regulations that will go to the floor of the Senate. And Gary Landry is on the phone to talk, or on the Zoom to talk to you about the fiscal note.
Thank you very much. And before we go to Mr. Landry, do we have any questions for Senator Lang on what the bill does? Senator Kiefer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for the point of clarification, the bill proposes that they create regs. Are you suggesting that the regs become part of the statute, or that we pass the bill as it's currently drafted and that the regs are already done?
Thank you for the question, through you, Chair, to Senator Kiefer. So the Cosmetology Board has made the regs, and they're going to be part of the statute, is my understanding. And Mr. Landry can correct me if I'm wrong. We are creating another level of esthetician. This one is going to be an advanced. They deal with more advanced tools and different things like that. And so this would just create a different, the second level.
Thank you, Senator. And do we have any other questions for Senator Lang? Okay, I think that maybe we can go to Mr. Landry.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Gary Landry, Executive Director of the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology. And answering the question previously stated on whether we have regs that will be adopted into the law, we actually have changes to the law that will be put in, and that will make the changes necessary for us to carry forth the advanced esthetician licensing. Speaking on this, the fiscal note is a positive fiscal note for the Board of Cosmetology. The fiscal note, it covers testing, licensing, and inspection. Those added up to about $190 per licensee, and we've estimated about 50 licensees the first year, and that would be $9,500. Then revenue is we get from testing, licensing, and that's going to equal $200 times the 50, gives us $10,000 worth of revenue. So we're a net positive $500, the $9,500 in cost versus $10,000 in revenue, gives us $500 in revenue that we keep, and that'll be a positive fiscal note for the Board of Cosmetology.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Do any of the committee members have any questions for Mr. Landry? I do not see any, so I thank you very much, Mr. Landry, and thank you, Senator Lang. Do we have anyone here in the audience in support of Senate Bill 291? It does not look as if we do. Can we go check on the phones?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 291, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Great. And can we see if we have anyone in opposition?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 291, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And can we see if anyone is in neutral to Senate Bill 291?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 291, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. So that brings our hearing on Senate Bill 291 to an end. And now we can open up the hearing on our last bill, Senate Bill 385. And we have Mr. Thorley, if you could walk us through that. And we have Senator Orenshaw here to help explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Division of Child and Family Services submitted a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, indicating an estimated fiscal impact of $30,000 in FY 2023. The Senate adopted Amendment 215, which significantly altered the bill. As amended, the bill now requires the Division of Child and Family Services to conduct a study during the 21-22 interim concerning investments in juvenile justice prevention activities in Nevada. An unsolicited fiscal note from DCFS has been submitted on the bill as amended and is available on Nellis. The division indicates that the bill as amended will not have a fiscal impact on the agency. Ms. Davis from DCFS is available to provide testimony on the fiscal note if needed.
Perfect. Thank you. Senator Orenshaw, could you just briefly describe to us what the bill as amended does?
Good evening, Chair Brooks and members of the Senate Finance Committee. James Orenshaw, State Senate District 21, parts of Henderson, unincorporated Clark County. Senate Bill 385 is one of the 10 recommendations that came out of the Interim Committee on Child Welfare and Juvenile Justice. It was amended over on earlier in our House, and the amendment asks Division of Child and Family Services to try to study what they're doing in terms of trying to divert kids from state commitments, and that would be commitments to the Caliente Youth Center many years ago called Nevada Girls Home, Nevada Youth Training Center, which has celebrated its 100th birthday, has been center for boys for over 100 years, and Summit View Youth Training Center by Nellis Air Force Base up little near Apex, near the Air Force Base. I certainly want to thank Administrator Armstrong, Deputy Administrator Davis for what they are continually trying to do to keep kids from commitment to the state and diverting kids into alternative programs and trying to help them succeed when they have been committed to the state to land on their feet. And I think that the less kids who get committed to our state institutions, I think that there's a good chance that they may do better closer to home. Our neighbor to the west is going that route, and I know it's not good for them to point to our neighbor to the west and what they're doing, but they, I believe, will be closing their state institutions in the next couple of years for youth. So I appreciate the state's help on this, and I hope your committee will consider moving this forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions from the committee for Senator Ornshaw? I do not see any, so maybe Ms. Davis, if you could just confirm that the amended bill does remove the fiscal impact.
Thank you, Chairman. Mandy Davis, Deputy Administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services, for the record. The bill as originally proposed would have implemented the program to allow the division to balance forward any savings that was realized due to fewer youth being diverted or being directed to one of our state detention facilities, and allow us to balance forward those savings to reinvest into prevention programs in the future to hopefully create a snowball effect to continually try to divert those youth from coming to us and be either served in their communities or other areas where they can experience a better outcome. As amended, the bill would allow us to study this program over the upcoming biennium and hopefully bring back a formal proposal, either legislative session or sometime in the future, to be able to implement this program. This will allow us some time to study the measures for success, best practices, different funding mechanisms that we may be able to implement and bring it forward in the future. So as amended, with just the study, the bill would have no fiscal impact. We did submit an unsolicited fiscal note to formalize the removal of our fiscal impact on there. So we are open for any questions if you have any for us.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. And does the committee have any questions for Ms. Davis on the fiscal note? I do not see any. I look forward to your findings, and if I know Senator Ornshaw, he will be back next session with a bill based on those findings.
Can only hope. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So no further questions. We'll see if we have anyone here in support of Senate Bill 385. I do not see anyone in the audience, so let's see if we have anyone on the phones in support of Senate Bill 385.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 385, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 385?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 385, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the neutral position on Senate Bill 385?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 385, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. That brings our hearing on Senate Bill 385 to an end and takes us to our next agenda item, which is the introduction of 9 BDRs. On your desk in front of you is a list of 9 BDRs that we will be introducing and a summary of what they are and the type of BDR that they are. And if there are no questions on those BDRs, I would take a motion to introduce those BDRs. I have a motion from Senator Cannizzaro. I think I heard a second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing no discussion on the motion, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. And Senator Severs-Gansert?
Aye, thank you.
All right, thank you. So the motion passes unanimously, and that brings us to our last agenda item, which is public comment. Do we have anyone on the lines is there anyone in the audience that wants to make public comment? And do we have anyone on the lines that would like to make public comment?
Thank you, Chair. We are currently on public comment. If you have joined the call and would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. With that, we can bring this meeting to an end, and this meeting is adjourned.